A big week for Boeing as it tries to get the 737 MAX back into service, and some new comments just coming from the CEO of the Ethiopian Airlines. LeBeau joins us right now with the latest on that.
And Becky, some of those comments are not a surprise given the tragedy that happened over in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Airlines CEO saying this morning within the last hour that it will be very difficult for Boeing to restore faith in the 737 MAX. Also said that to the best of Ethiopian Airlines knowledge, the MCAS, which is the software, the system that pushes the nose of the 737 MAX down, it was activated in the crash of the 737 MAX flight. So just a few of the headlines from the Ethiopian Airlines CEO. Let's talk about what's going on with regard to a potential fix for the 737 MAX. Starting with this weekend, there were 3 airlines, United, Southwest, and American, the ones that fly the 37 MAX here in the U.S. They had pilots in Renton, Washington, getting an update from Boeing about the software fix that the company is working on. By the way, they're not working on this in a vacuum. They are working in terms of communicating with the FAA about what they are doing. And that software, we're not going to go into all the details, but some of the important points of what it does, it will limit the MCAS system's influence on flight controls. You heard the Ethiopian Airways CEO make a reference to that MCAS system. It will use 2 key sensors, not one, which has been a complaint of people who have looked at this system. And the pilots will be alerted in the cockpit to the sensor data and to when MCAS is activated. So what goes on this week for the 737 MAX and for Boeing? A couple of important things. First of all, either today or tomorrow, the FAA is expecting to begin a formal review of the software. That review is key to whether or not they ultimately certify it and say, yeah, okay, this is good to go, get this in the airplanes, and then we can work on certifying the 37 to be no longer grounded. And then on Wednesday, you've got the Senate hearing on FAA certification. 200 pilots and regulators from airlines around the world that fly the 737 MAX, as we take a look at shares of Boeing, they are going to be in Renton on Wednesday. So Boeing is now transitioning, if you will, to working with its customers, with regulators, trying to keep everybody in the loop in terms of what this software fix will be for the 737 MAX. But as you guys heard from those comments from the Ethiopian Airlines CEO, there's still a lot of questions about why this system was in place and whether or not Boeing failed and should be held responsible for not alerting airlines and pilots more clearly about the MCAS software. Guys, back to you.
Hey, Phil, very quickly, 2 changes that you said they're going to be making. Pilots will be alerted when the sensors aren't working. They'll be alerted in the cockpit, and the idea that there would be 2 sensors. It's my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, but that those issues already existed in some of the planes. You just used to have to pay for them as an upgrade. Is that true? Because I thought American Airlines planes had 2 sensors already.
Well,
I thought there were some planes that already had these sensors
the
in the
issue
cockpit,
is
too.
Becky, the issue is the angle of attack sensors. The information in the past, you were not, first of all, it was one sensor that was feeding into MCAS. And then also the issue is whether or not.
On all versions of it?
It's my understanding. Now, it may have been that there's 2, but it's mandatory now that it'll be both of them.
Mandatory.
And if there's a disagreement between them, Becky, then the crew will be alerted to them. It'll be saying, hey, here's the angle of attack sensor coming from the pilot side.
It was my understanding, and maybe I've
side.
misread it, but based on some of the reporting that I saw last week in the Wall Street Journal, that those
You're talking
those
about
things
where
were
they're
available on some
alerted.
models, but they were charging you an upgrade for some of those safety issues.
That has to do also, Becky, with whether or not the crews would be alerted. You would have to pay if you were an airline to have that alert system in the cockpit. In other words, it was always there. The technology was there. What you would have to pay extra for.
You just have to pay to see it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well,
it's
I understand, and that's at the heart of why people are saying that will be changing with the improvements that are going to be made with this software system.
Hey, Phil, rough Friday for Boeing into the close there, obviously in a very weak market. Rebounding a little bit today, but below that 365 level, which is where so many, I don't know, the technicians thought that was important. I wonder what's going on. I don't know. And then I was also going to ask you about Tesla, since you know so much about everything. Tesla's indicated down another 3%, another $6 today. It's
well,
getting close to a new low.
Let's talk about Tesla, because the big issue here is just how weak were the Q1 sales. We're not out of Q1 yet, but Look, every indication here has been, whether it's in the U.S. because you have lower Model 3 deliveries because people who are buying it in the first quarter no longer get as great of a federal tax credit that they did in the fourth quarter. That's been cut in half. You've got that. You've got issues with the China deliveries at the beginning. And then you've also got the fact that you've got a European market that is starting to spool up. And as it spools up, RBC out with a note today saying, look, Model 3 is going to cut into the margins for S and X, and margins overall for the company are going to come down. That's why you're seeing pressure on the stock.